There's a number that financial gurus never mention, a number that feels like a finish line but acts like a trapdoor. Hit this number, and most people destroy their own wealth within 2 years. Not because they lose their job, not because the market crashes, but because their own brain turns against them. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how this happens, and how to survive it. Let me start with a shocking fact. The average American earns over $2 million in their lifetime, gross, yet the average retirement savings is under $100,000. Where does all that money go? It's not just lattes and avocado toast. That's a lazy explanation for lazy thinkers. The real answer is psychological. And the most dangerous psychological trap sits exactly at $250,000. I call this number the confidence cliff, because right when you should be safest, you become most dangerous to yourself. Let me explain what happens inside your skull when you cross this number. First, your brain releases dopamine. You feel successful. You feel smart. You feel like you've cracked the code. Second, your risk perception warps. Losses that would have terrified you at $50,000 suddenly feel affordable. Third, you start looking for shortcuts. Why wait 20 years when you could make it happen in 5? This is the exact moment where discipline dies and ego takes over. I've watched this happen dozens of times. People with solid portfolios who made the exact same mistake. At $10,000, you're careful. Every dollar matters. You check your statements. You read the fine print. At $50,000, you're disciplined. You have a system. You're following a plan. At $250,000, something shifts. You stop being an investor and start feeling like a genius. That feeling, that's the trap. That's the thing that separates people who become millionaires from people who peak at $250,000 and then stagnate for decades. Let me give you a concept I call the illusion of arrival. When your portfolio jumps $5,000 in a single day, your brain starts playing tricks. You begin thinking you've made it. You start feeling wealthy. And that feeling, that dangerous, intoxicating feeling, is where most people's wealth-building journey comes to a screeching halt. They don't lose their money all at once. They bleed it slowly through bad decisions they thought were smart. Here's what's actually happening at $250,000 that most people never realize. You're not rich. You're not even close to rich. What you are is dangerous. Dangerous to yourself, dangerous to your future, and dangerous to the wealth you've worked so hard to build. You have just enough money to make really expensive mistakes, but not enough money to recover from them quickly. That $5,000 gain you saw yesterday, it exists only on paper. It can disappear tomorrow. I want to tell you about 3 real people. Names changed, stories real. These are not hypotheticals. These are autopsies of wealth destruction. Example 1. Let's call him Mark. Mark saved for 11 years, lived in a studio apartment, drove a car with manual windows. He hit $250,000 at age 34, felt invincible. Mark had been reading about options trading for 6 months. He watched YouTube videos. He joined Discord groups. He decided he understood volatility decay and theta burn, and all the other words that sound smart but actually mean you will lose money. He put $50,000 into call options on a tech stock. Limited downside, he told himself. Asymmetric upside, he told his wife. She didn't understand what that meant. Neither did he. The stock dropped 12%. His options expired worthless 45 days later. $50,000 gone. Not a slow bleed, not a bad investment that eventually recovered. A clean, surgical, permanent evaporation. Mark didn't lose the money because he was stupid. He lost it because he was confident. At $50,000, he would never have touched options. At $250,000, he thought he could afford to learn. That sentence, "I can afford to learn," has destroyed more wealth than any recession in American history. You cannot afford to learn with $50,000 on the line. Nobody can. Example 2. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah had $260,000, all in low-cost index funds. Boring. Beautiful. Working while she slept. Then she went to a real estate seminar. You know the type. Rich people own property. Poor people own stocks. The speaker had perfect hair and a smile that looked like it was purchased separately. Sarah bought the course. Then she bought the dream. She sold $100,000 in stocks. Took out a leveraged loan for another $100,000. Bought a duplex that needed just a little work. The inspector said cosmetic issues only. The work cost twice what the inspector estimated. The tenants stopped paying after 4 months. Eviction took another 6 months and cost $8,000 in legal fees. The water heater exploded. The roof leaked. The foundation cracked. Sarah lost the duplex in foreclosure. Lost her $100,000 down payment. Still owes $60,000 on the leveraged loan. Her index funds would have grown to about $400,000 by now. Instead, she's back to zero. Actually negative, all because she thought being boring wasn't good enough anymore. She wanted to be a real investor. Now she's a real cautionary tale. Example 3. Let's call him James. James was the most disciplined saver I've ever met. Reached $250,000 at age 40. Then he discovered social media. Specifically, he discovered finance influencers on Instagram and TikTok. People his age, or so they claimed, with $800,000, with $2 million, with passive income streams that looked like waterfalls. Suddenly, James's $250,000 felt like failure. He started comparing. He started feeling behind. He started making desperate moves to catch up to people he'd never met. James abandoned his conservative approach. He put $40,000 into cryptocurrency, then another 20, then another 30. He bought the top. He watched his portfolio go up. He watched it go down. He sold the bottom. Lost about $90,000 in 14 months. That's $6,400 per month, every month, for over a year, just gone. Here's what James didn't understand. The people he was comparing himself to, half of them were lying. A quarter inherited money. The rest took risks that would have given him a heart attack if he knew the truth. He was comparing his reality to their highlight reel. And that comparison cost him almost $100,000. 3 people. Mark, Sarah, James. Different backgrounds, different strategies, different cities. Same mistake. They hit $250,000 and forgot what got them there. Let me break down the 3 psychological traps that destroy wealth at this level. Because if you understand them, you can survive them. Trap number 1. I call it the overconfidence monster. This is what got Mark. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect applied to your bank account. You've managed to accumulate $250,000 through some combination of saving, investing, and maybe a little market luck. Your portfolio has grown steadily for several years. You've weathered a few market downturns and come out ahead. You start thinking you understand how this whole wealth building thing works. You start believing you're some kind of investing genius. This is when people go completely off the rails. This is when conservative index fund investors suddenly think they can pick individual stocks. This is when people start dabbling in options trading, chasing meme stocks, or throwing money at speculative real estate deals. This is when the phrase, "I can afford to lose this," becomes the most expensive sentence in the English language. Nobody can afford to lose $50,000, nobody. But at $250,000, your brain tells you otherwise. Trap number 2, I call it the comparison spiral. This is what got James, and it's the quietest killer of all. You finally reach $250,000. For a brief moment, you feel successful. You feel accomplished. You look around at your peers who are still living paycheck to paycheck and you feel pretty good. Then you meet someone at a networking event who mentions they have 500,000 invested. Suddenly, your $250,000 doesn't feel so impressive. Then you read an article about someone your age who's already hit 800,000. Now you feel behind. Then you stumble across a social media post from someone flaunting their $2 million portfolio. Now you feel like a complete failure, all in the same week. This is where people sabotage their own progress trying to catch up. They abandon their conservative, steady approach. They increase their risk tolerance beyond rational limits. They start making desperate moves to close the gap. The comparison trap is particularly vicious because it's never ending. There will always be someone with more money than you. Always. Even billionaires compare themselves to other billionaires. The moment you start measuring your success against someone else's highlight reel is the moment you stop appreciating how far you've actually come. Trap number 3. I call it the lifestyle creep explosion. This is the most common and the most expensive. You hit $250,000. Your brain says, you've earned this. You deserve this. Life is short. So you upgrade the car, then the apartment, then the watch, then the restaurant habit. Here's the math that nobody does. Every dollar you spend on lifestyle creep at $250,000 costs you about $8 in future wealth. Because that dollar isn't just gone, it's gone along with 30 years of compound growth. The person who keeps driving the 2015 sedan and living in the modest apartment, they're not depriving themselves. They're buying their future self the ability to stop working at 55 instead of 75. Let me show you the math that changed how I think about this number forever. Because the numbers are genuinely mind-blowing. Let's say you have $250,000 invested. Conservative return, 8% annually. That's $20,000 per year in growth. $20,000. That's more than some people save in their entire lifetime, and your money is generating that much every single year without you lifting a finger. While you sleep, while you eat breakfast, while you watch Netflix. But it gets better. Because of compound interest, that $20,000 in growth starts earning its own returns. Next year, you're not just earning 8% on $250,000, you're earning 8% on $270,000. The year after that, 8% on over $290,000. The growth starts snowballing in ways that will genuinely shock you if you've never seen it happen before. Here's the part that will blow your mind. From $250,000 to $500,000 takes about half the time as it took you to get from 0 to $250,000. Read that again. The second $250,000 comes twice as fast as the first, and the $250,000 after that comes even faster. This is why I call $250,000 the point of no return. Not because you can't lose money from here, you absolutely can. But because if you can resist the psychological traps at this level, building serious wealth becomes almost inevitable. Your money develops momentum that becomes increasingly difficult to stop. Let me break down the numbers from 0 to 1 million. If you're consistently investing $10,000 per year at 8% returns, it takes about 14 years to reach your first $250,000. It takes roughly the same amount of time, another 14 years, to go from $250,000 to $1 million. The same amount of time for 3 times as much money. This is the moment compound interest stops whispering and starts shouting. Your money has finally built enough momentum to roll downhill without you constantly pushing the boulder uphill. This is why Charlie Munger famously said the first $100,000 is the hardest. But the principle applies even more dramatically at $250,000. But here's the problem. Knowing this creates its own psychological trap. When you realize you're halfway to millionaire status, it can trigger what I call acceleration anxiety. You start thinking there must be something you can do to speed up the process. Maybe you should increase your risk tolerance. Maybe you should start picking individual stocks. Maybe you should leverage your portfolio with borrowed money. This is exactly backwards thinking. At $250,000, your job isn't to accelerate the process. Your job is to not screw it up. Your money has reached escape velocity. It's generating its own momentum. The worst thing you can do is interfere with that momentum by getting creative or clever or fancy. Let me share something that most financial advisors won't tell you because it doesn't sell their services. The difference between people who build lasting wealth and those who sabotage themselves at this level often comes down to three simple rules. Not complicated strategies, not sophisticated tactics, not insider knowledge. Three boring, unglamorous, almost embarrassingly simple rules. Rule number 1. Stop looking for shortcuts. The shortcut is the trap. Every time you hear about a faster way to build wealth, assume it's either a lie or a gamble. There are no shortcuts. There is only time and compound interest. Rule number 2. Stop comparing yourself to strangers on the internet. That person with the $2 million portfolio, you don't know if they inherited it. You don't know if they're lying. You don't know if they're drowning in debt. The only person you should compare yourself to is you from last year. Are you better off? Are you learning? Are you staying disciplined? That's the only comparison that matters. Rule number 3. Keep doing exactly what got you here. Not what you think you should be doing now that you're serious. Not what the guy with the perfect hair on YouTube is doing. What got you to $250,000? That thing. Keep doing it. Here's why that's so hard. Continuing to do the same boring thing when your account balance is jumping around by thousands of dollars every day feels like you're not maximizing your potential. It feels like you're leaving money on the table. Your brain starts playing this cruel game where it shows you all the opportunities you're supposedly missing. Look at that stock that went up 300% last year. Look at that real estate deal that would have doubled your money. This is the exact moment where discipline becomes more valuable than intelligence. This is where the ability to ignore noise becomes more important than the ability to analyze opportunities. This is where boring becomes beautiful. The biggest winners at this level are often the most boring people you'd never want to sit next to at a dinner party. They keep buying the same index funds, keep living in the same reasonable house, keep driving the same reliable car. They don't check their portfolio 40 times a day. They check it once a quarter. They don't read stock tips on Reddit. They read books about patience. They don't chase hot sectors. They buy the whole market and go for a walk. Is that exciting? No. Does it work? Look at the data. The average active trader underperforms the market by 4% per year. The average boring index fund investor outperforms 90% of active managers over 20 years. You don't need to be smarter than the market. You need to be more patient than your own ego. And at $250,000, your ego is screaming at you to do something. Do nothing. That's the secret. Do nothing. Keep buying. Keep waiting. Keep ignoring the noise. That's how you become a millionaire. There's something else that happens at $250,000 that nobody talks about. Something that has nothing to do with compound interest or market returns. You gain something that money can't directly buy, but wealth can definitely provide. You gain options. When you have $250,000 invested, you're no longer trapped by your paycheck in the same way most people are. You can't retire on it, obviously, but you can make career moves that people living paycheck to paycheck simply cannot consider. You can take a temporary pay cut to join a startup with equity upside. You can negotiate more aggressively with your current employer because walking away isn't financial suicide. You can relocate for better opportunities without worrying about covering moving expenses. This is what I call the hidden power of $250,000. It's not just about the money itself. It's about the freedom that money provides to make decisions based on opportunity rather than desperation. And these decisions, these career moves and calculated risks that become possible at this wealth level, often accelerate your income growth far beyond what your investments alone could achieve. You're not buying a car. You're buying the ability to say no to a boss who disrespects you. You're buying the ability to say yes to a project that excites you but pays less upfront. You're buying time. Time is the only thing money can buy that actually matters. The person who uses their $250,000 as leverage for better career decisions will always outperform the person who uses it to buy a luxury car. Every single time. Let me leave you with 5 sentences. Just 5. Write them down if you need to. 1. $250,000 is not a finish line. It's a test. 2. The enemy is not the market. The enemy is your own confidence. 3. Boring is beautiful. Repetition is powerful. Discipline is rare. 4. The fastest way to become a millionaire is to act like you're not trying to become a millionaire. 5. The only person you need to impress is your future retired self. That's the video. That's the philosophy. You can take it or leave it. But if you take it, you might just survive the $250,000 trap that destroys everyone else. Most people will ignore this. Most people will hit $250,000 and buy the car. Most people will stay average. Most people will never become millionaires. That's not me being mean. That's me being honest. The math is clear. The psychology is clear. The trap is clear. And most people will walk right into it anyway. Don't be most people. If you want more of this, uncomfortable truths about money that actually work, not get rich quick fantasy, hit subscribe. I make content for adults who want to build real wealth, not for dreamers who want to pretend. There's a difference. Subscribe if you want the second one. Here's your comment bait. Answer honestly, no filters, no performance. What's the most expensive mistake you've made because you felt confident instead of careful? Maybe it was a stock pick. Maybe it was a car. Maybe it was a business idea. Maybe it was telling someone about your money before you should have. I'm not asking for your wins. Everyone posts their wins. I'm asking for your loss, the one that taught you something. I'll go first in the comments. I'll tell you about the time I got overconfident and paid for it. You go second. Write your mistake. Don't be embarrassed. Everyone has one. The only embarrassing mistake is the one you don't learn from. Get rich slowly, stay boring, ignore the noise. And I'll see you in the next one.